Everybody got on okay?
Yep.
I was having some problems earlier, but it seems to be working okay now. Nancy, good to see you.
Good to see you guys.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Are you in Manitou now?
I am.
Very cool.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good.
Judy's still working on it, so she should be here pretty soon.
I just emailed out another link just to make sure everyone got the right one. But it seems like most people are on now.
Yeah, it looks like it. You guys, should we go ahead and call it to order, I suppose? Is everybody cool with that? Or do you want to give it a couple minutes for Judy?
Whatever you want, man. You're the boss.
Oh, I mean, I like everybody to be involved. Let's wait for a couple minutes. Maybe someone tell a story. So then we get everybody on the same page when we start. Any good stories, Seth? No?
I have a question. I kind of missed the meeting where you kind of became the, I don't know, what's the right word, the leader for our group here. The other lady is still on the panel, I guess, but just you guys switched or?
So every March we have to elect new officers.
Okay.
And Nancy's right there, but Nancy was super busy. She's a world traveler now. We're lucky to have her tonight.
Oh, yeah. Actually, it was almost going to be in Yellowstone tonight, but it flooded.
All right, guys, I don't know what's going on there. So I'm going to text Judy.
She's jumping on right now.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, yeah.
And TJ's joining too. So we have a lot of people tonight. We're good.
Holy cow, we're full.
Full slate.
So let's call the meeting to order. An announcement of member openings. I think we don't have any, or do we have an alternate position open still?
Not if you accept Steve Bremer. I think you're full.
I wrote the letter for Steve. I don't know. I think council has to do that. I don't know if it's on the agenda yet. I haven't heard back from city clerk other than say,
that was already done.
oh, it was? Okay, so we're
Council
full
approved
house.
him, yeah.
So we're a full house, but Steve couldn't be here tonight. He is on the main fork of the salmon.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you see me? Because I'm not getting my video. It's just black.
I cannot see you.
Okay.
I can only hear you.
Yeah, my video, it says stop video, but there's nothing there. So I may just be, my face blank, but I'll speak up if I have anything.
Wasn't that a Facebook movement not too long ago? Like the black screen?
Oh, I have no idea. Not really on Facebook.
Me neither, but I seem that maybe you're a social justice warrior. So,
Yeah.
So does anybody have any questions about the May 23rd regular meeting minutes? Any questions, comments? Motion to approve them. Andrea,
I will motion to approve the minutes.
can we get a second?
I'll second it.
Judy. All those in favor of approving the minutes, please raise your hand or say aye.
I just have a question before you vote. I just want to know, was it noted that they were supposed to say May and it said March?
Say that again?
It was supposed to say May 23rd and it says March 23rd.
I didn't even catch that.
Well, that threw me all off because I just said, well, these are the wrong minutes.
Yeah, can we amend that motion to say May 23rd? So amended. All those in favor, say aye.
It does say May 23rd,
Mine says March.
May 23rd, 2020.
No, in the actual minutes themselves,
Oh,
it
okay.
does say March. You guys want to vote on that? Amended to say May. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I,
Motion passes. Next thing is the agenda review and public comment on non-agenda items. Anybody have any questions about the agenda? And is there anybody in the public that wants to make comment on non-agenda items? I do not see
I do.
any.
I have a suggestion.
Yeah, Judy.
Yeah, just generally going forward, I would think it would be super helpful if when we get our packets, everything, including minutes and the agenda and everything else is numbered. Because when it comes flying out of the printer, like I do it, and I pick them up or I drop them or the printer folds them up, it would be really helpful. And I think it's just standard procedure to number pages, but they're not.
Staff, anybody comment on that?
I mean, I can reach out to, who should I reach out to just say, hey, we made this amendment. Can you change it? Should I send that to Alicia or?
Send it to me and
You.
Seth, and then we'll get it to Alicia to make those updates. But yeah, she'd be the one to be able to do that.
Isn't there a setting on your printer that can make them numbered?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like-
the problem is you're talking about a lot of different documents that come in the packet.
Right.
It's going to be very time consuming and difficult to put those in number, I gotta
I
say.
really was
But
suggesting the
whatever.
opposite. I was suggesting that, yes, the minutes should be page 1 through 6. And the regular meeting agenda should be 1 and 2. Because that way,
Oh,
you know
okay.
exactly when the pages start flipping or you go through them and you mess them up,
Yeah.
you know exactly the order you're supposed to be following them in. That is really exactly what I was asking for.
Yeah, that would be easier.
Are you printing all these out, Judy?
I do because it's easier. For me.
So back in the day, we used to get paper packets and we made we actually had a motion to do away with paper packets. So that's probably maybe a little bit of that. Nobody else has the complaint because we talked about that a long time ago. So.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it's something that can be done, huh?
Should be.
Okay. Anybody else have anything for the agenda review? Is there anybody in the public? I don't even know how to do that. Gallery.
I can see we have Corey and Jim Yount in the public as attendees, so.
Do they have
can add-
anybody's hands raised? Do they hear me? You guys want to talk about things that are not on the agenda? This is the chance.
I think they can raise their hands and I'll see that if they have something to say.
Okay, cool. Going once, going twice, gone. Let's go to D, the Parks and Rec Advisory Board Parab update. I noticed in that we had an agenda for May, but we didn't have minutes for their May meeting. Is that just because it's they're a little behind on that.
Yeah, I don't think those minutes have been submitted yet.
Okay. Is there anything we need to know from that meeting?
I'm trying to think, not from May, but from June. They're a little behind on the June minutes also. So in June, they met with the developers of the Cheyenne Village property and kind of did a, negotiation compromise for the land dedication. So what ended up happening is there's two parcels, lot 14 and 15, at the corner of Sutherland and Crystal Park Road. And those two parcels, they are submitting to the planning commission for land dedication for a park. And those parcels actually go right up to the creek. So I think everyone's pretty happy with how it ended up. And now it's, between the developers and planning commission to keep that application moving forward.
What was the developer's thoughts on those two parcels being a park?
They had a lot of concerns initially, but we worked through some of that, mainly being access. The original request from Parab had them getting an easement going all the way to the footbridge, and that would be going through someone's backyard. And so there was a lot to work through and a lot of concerns about, maintenance and things like that. But being at the corner there gives the greatest public access, the greatest, access to the city staff to be able to maintain the property. So it ended up working out pretty good for both parties, I think.
Seems like a win-win, huh?
Yeah, Tim, do you have a question?
Yeah, we had talked about having that park go to the other side of the creek so that Manitou for that park area would be responsible for both sides of the creek for maintaining that little park area, which seemed kind of sensible. I'm not trying to throw a wrench in the works here, but you might bear that in mind. It might be better for the developer if we had both sides of that park as well, just for maintenance purposes.
Yeah, I'm not positive. I believe the parcel only goes to the creek. I can't remember if it goes to the other side or not. But
I don't think it
can
does.
Yeah, I can, but that was part of their original request. So let me look into that, Tim. And
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good deal, and that's the right way to do it. And so it's just a nit that they might want to think about for their own sakes if we have to maintain that, or if they do. So, okay.
Well, and we did go to their meeting and say we were going to do this if you guys did that, and there was kind of a verbal agreement that they were going to ask for both sides of that creek. So hopefully that can happen. Go ahead, Nancy.
Oh, I was going to ask a question about parking. So when you drive by that parcel, by the way, I think it's great. Thank you, Skylar. That's great. I mean, if we don't have access to the other side of the creek, it's like access to the middle, but I don't think we'll have to worry about that. People are just gonna do what they're gonna do. But the parking there on that corner, right now, people are, I'm not 100% sure how far up the west side of that goes, but I know that there's parking that comes down well past the cantina along there. I'm just curious about whether they're gonna allow parking all the way down to that corner. I think it gets tighter down there. Tim, you probably know better than I do, but I drive past that or ride past that all the time on my bike. It'll be interesting to think about where people who want to visit the park. I'm surmising that it's going to mostly be locals, that it's not going to be people who drive to that park because it's so small. But I don't know what anybody else thinks about that. But
Well,
I mean, I think if they're if there is parking along the west side of that parcel, we probably ought to maintain it because it is someplace that anybody visiting could park, and that's a good thing, probably.
Judy?
I was gonna say the cantina in the winter is if it's open, is only open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday brunch, or even sometimes Friday, Saturday, Sunday brunch, and that's it. So in the winter and the late fall and the early spring, I bet people end up parking on the cantina's parking lot across the street. And in the summer when it's packed, it's wherever you can, and most people park. Even the cantina employees right now are parking up Sutherland on the Cheyenne Village side.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you're gonna, there's really no parking. And the employees for the cantina currently are parking on the Cheyenne Village parking area out in front of the lodge, that whole strip and all the way back up to the bend. So I don't see how there's going to be any issue about parking because there's nothing to do about it, in the sense that we're not going to be able to say, well, these 8 spaces are for this park. I don't think you're going to get that far.
No, I wasn't suggesting that.
There was some discussion, and you know what, this is not really it's out of our hands now, but just for conversation's sake, Alan Delwich made a really good point in planning that parking is going to be such an issue for this development. Like, this park is the very least of their worries. They have to provide parking for every single structure and every single person that lives in there. And it can't be on street. So that's going to be a big deal. And then I think Parks and Rec, when I was talking to them, we're also, Mabel Willie doesn't have parking. The Tot Lot doesn't have parking. I think they're kind of looking at this as one of those kind of parks. So I don't think it's going to be advertised, please come to this park.
Right.
So anyway, but it's out of our hands. We got what we wanted out of it. We're going to be getting a huge fat check out of the deal. So,
Do you know how much? Do you know how much? Do you have a
not
approximate?
much. I think it was like 19 grand. Does that sound right, Skylar?
That sounds right. I don't have final numbers yet. Dylan is working on that this week because Para as well will get some fees in lieu since they did not get the full allotment of land dedication. So it'll be a combination of land and fees.
And that is completely dependent if this project gets through planning. So we don't, nobody has anything yet. This could all go away if they get shot down with planning or whatever, and then it would all go back to us again if a new developer came. So,
But they're working on it. They're ripping off roofs.
well, because they own those houses.
Yeah, there's a lot of construction going on.
Yeah, they have to do that. So, anyway, any other questions about Parks and Rec? Parks Manager report. Seth.
Hi, everybody. Oh, shoot, my computer. So the agenda got a little misconstrued when I uploaded some pictures to Alicia. So that first bullet point there is gonna be talking about the pictures that I uploaded to the packet about the Crystal Park, I forget the address, the trail reroute next to Crystal Park Road. 284 Crystal Park Road Trail reroute. That's kind of later in the agenda, but I'll just go over it now since it's there. It was completed by park staff on 6/22. We constructed a new trail on the city property to get it off of the private property that it was going on. We attempted restoration on the old trail section as well. So not only a new constructed trail is there, but we tried to cover up the old one and it looks pretty good. A lot of people passing by gave us a lot of compliments and what have you. You can all access the photos and the maintenance log on all that on the OSAC shared Google Drive. I uploaded all of that progress into there. And just a couple other things I want to go over. I did the yearly walkthroughs with the Palmer Land Conservancy. A representative named Amy, me and her over the last week have hiked the Iron Mountain Open Space, Red Mountain Open Space, and Black Canyon as part of their regular yearly check-in. We hiked the properties and she took pictures of her waypoints and sent it back to her supervisor, where she interviewed questions about the property and checked on the integrity and all of that good stuff. So that all went really well. And then one more thing to report is that I have successfully completed, but not finished the certification, not got it in the mail yet, so to speak. But I am Pikes Peak Regional Crew Leader certified, thanks to some city funding. I attended a 2-day weekend workshop with Renfee in the city of Colorado Springs, as well as 2 separate certification volunteer days with the city of Colorado Springs, one being on the Manitou Incline and the other being on Blodgett Open Space for some trail restoration projects. So I hope to receive my certificate pretty soon because I submitted all my paperwork last week. And that's all I have for my section.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions of Seth?
No, I just say nice job on the trail over there. You didn't have to take out nearly as many trees as I thought you were going to have to.
Yeah, it was pretty successful, and yeah, maintaining, as many trees as possible. And I think it turned out pretty well, and it looks really good.
Yeah.
I talked to the homeowner, Dave Stinson, today, and he was blown away, overjoyed, amazed
really?
by your work. He wants to figure out a way to say thank you to you guys. He also wanted to let you know that he's got a huge pile of decomposed granite. If you want to put that anywhere, it's yours for the taking.
Okay, great.
But he was very happy. He couldn't say enough about you guys' work. Matt Carpenter has run some numbers, and he's kind of a numbers guy. If you guys don't know him, he's very much a numbers guy. He said that 75% of the people on that trail now are using the new trail as of a month ago, or as of when it first started, and 25% were using the old trail. I guess you guys put some more logs out there since that data was taken, and now it's 95 and 5. So
yeah, it
should be working.
Yeah, it looks pretty detoured. It would be kind of silly to walk on the old one now. It's pretty much officially complete as of Wednesday of last week, I believe. So
yeah, so it looks great, man. You guys did a great job.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Were you going to cover number 2, the smoking in parks and open spaces and trails?
I think Skylar was going to get that one. Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions or comments for Seth? Nope. All right, Skylar.
Sure. So this is kind of more of a housekeeping item, but we're working on updating the municipal code and kind of going through all that, and with all the discussion about smoking on public places, concerns for fires this year, the discussion came up regarding smoking in public places. So in our code, it specifically lists parks as smoking is banned in our parks, but it doesn't say open space or trails. So the thought, I believe this came from City Council, Judith, if you want to chime in, but the thought is to expand that no smoking ban to not only parks, but trails and open space. So our city attorney drafted an ordinance specifically for this, and that was included in your packet. So I don't know, Judith, you want to chime in?
I'd be happy to. In fact, we will have our city council meeting tomorrow evening, and item H1 is the first reading of a new ordinance number 1722, an ordinance of the city of Manitou Springs, Colorado, amending chapter 6.34 of the Manitou Springs Municipal Code concerning restrictions of open fires and open burning to include city-owned properties, parks, and open spaces. So just to segue into what Skylar said, City Council has already passed a smoking ban language in a previous ordinance, but our city attorney, Jeff Parker, took another look at it and said we really need to add language that specifies open spaces and parks So, it will be on the city council agenda tomorrow to pass. It is first reading because it's an ordinance. So, it'll go through first reading and pass, and then we'll have, in the next regular meeting, we'll have, public comment and then pass it, but I don't see any reason why it wouldn't be passed on second read. Nancy, did you have a question for me?
I did, sure. So what you just read, Judith, didn't say anything about smoking. It said open burning, blah, blah, blah. When I hear that, I don't think about smoking. It seems like it should
Well,
be.
I know, that's weird. Smoking is considered open burning, and I'm actually trying to open up the exact language that Jeff Parker asked us to insert, but my other computer is like slow as molasses. But cigarettes, cigars, pipe smoking is considered open burning. And so it does specifically restrict those activities in parks and open spaces, with exceptions to what's already been passed, which is within 15 feet of a city-approved receptacle. And I don't know if you've already seen the bear-proof trash cans are now have all been equipped with the smoking receptacles on the side. Like, to me, I think they should be painted yellow or some other color. You can hardly see them, because we're trying to get people to not throw them into the trash or recycles. And I was in downtown today, and I'm not sure that's working as well as we want to, but we passed the ordinance without that language, and it was the city attorney that came in and said, you really need to expand that to city parks and open spaces. But yeah, I learned, yeah, Nancy, you're right. Smoking, cigar smoke, cigarette pipes is all considered open burning.
Could you read what you just said, though?
But
What the ordinance says it lists?
Sure, I will read it again, and tomorrow it'll be item H1 under business. It'll be first.
Quick question, Judith.
Yeah.
Are we looking at the ordinance that it's in our packet?
Yeah,
Chapter 9, it says smoking prohibited, and it says everything.
it does say.
There's only, yeah, there's only 2 sections in the ordinance that was previously passed. Oh, my computer's letting me open it up. That will insert language. So hopefully I can get you the
Is
exact
the insert,
language.
because I think we have it in our packet.
Yeah, we do.
So I'll read it again for Nancy and all of your benefits.
okay. I've got it in front of me.
You want it? Okay, because I can read you the exact ordinance.
Well,
It's
yeah,
long.
it says smoking prohibited
Right,
in
we're
city
reading
parks,
it.
open space and trails. Okay, I just
Right.
wanted to make sure that there wasn't it wasn't ambiguous. So it's in
Okay.
there. I see it now.
Um,
Thank you.
Okay,
It
so
seems
you don't
very-
need me to
very
read the
straightforward.
exact language that we're changing, right? Is that what I'm hearing you say?
I think the big change is just adding open space.
Right, parks and
And
open
trails.
space, yeah.
Yeah, parks and open space.
Parks, trails, and open space.
And just point out, like any other ordinance, it's all about enforcement. If it isn't enforced,
Oh,
it doesn't mean anything.
yes. You've
Well,
said it
and
all right.
But the big part too is it gives some teeth to the guy who burns down Iron Mountain. He broke the law instead of just accidentally burned down Iron Mountain. So
Right.
Well, and
Well-
the interesting thing is, we already have a no smoking sign on all of our trailheads. So
Right.
it's like already there. This is, like I said, it's a housekeeping item.
It is, and unfortunately, the ordinance was already passed on first and second reading, and now we're going back to pass it again on first and second reading, just to add that. In fact, I just pulled it up. If you want me to just read the sentence that we're adding. Outdoor smoking of any tobacco product or similar material in cigarettes, cigars, or pipes is prohibited, including without limitation on city-owned or controlled property, parks, and open spaces, except within 15 feet of city-approved disposable receptacles at city-approved locations. Discarding lighted cigarettes, cigars, or pipe tobacco products outdoors other than in any city-approved receptacle is prohibited, is the exact language in the ordinance.
Judy, I'm looking at it too. It doesn't specify what the fine or It's just, right?
Right. We did discuss that. I do think that our fees and fines, which is a separate docket, was updated. But again, as Shannon said, it all comes down to being able to enforce it. So that is where it gets difficult.
Well,
Especially-
I'd like to be able to say, if I run across somebody on the trail smoking, I'd like to be able to say, you know, smoking is illegal here and you could get a $200 fine or something like that.
Well, Nancy, I don't want to belabor this point. I know there's a lot of other things on the agenda, but that's the important thing about the second reading, as you know, because that's when we entertain public comment. And I think, Nancy, that's a really, I mean, I don't know if you're going to be around, but if you are, that would be a really appropriate question. Because now that in fact, it should come up tomorrow. In fact, I will bring it up on your behalf, is that since we're adding parks, trails and open space, you know, what is the fine and how do we enforce it are two really appropriate questions. So I will bring those up tomorrow but they should also come up on second reading at the public hearing.
Thank you for doing that. And by the way,
Sure.
the precedent is there's already a fine for example, not securing your garbage from bears. So the council
Mhm.
has given an exact fine in the past.
So what I'm hearing you say is you want to know about the fine and enforcement.
Yeah.
Okay,
The fine, what is it?
Got
If it's $5, nobody will care.
if I get any answers tomorrow in council, I'll email all of you. Otherwise, I'll let you know that it is going to be discussed on second reading.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions about the smoking? Do you need anything? Oh, yeah, Andrea, sorry.
I was just wondering too, if we wanted to, I mean, if it does get a lot drier, a lot freakier, you know, we could put temporary like yard signs, maybe at trailheads, things like that, if we wanted to. Just a thought. I don't know, maybe that's more of a city thing.
Once the ordinance passes, Andrea, the city should be providing signage. I'm sure Skylar can back me up on that one. But if that ordinance passes, we are going to have to put some kind of indication on the trails, open
But we
spaces and
have
parks.
those signs already exist.
Yeah. Right. So,
Like
but if
they're
we
already
need
there.
anything else,
There's a big old thing that says no smoking and guns.
But you're right. If we continue to advance in the fire restrictions and it's a much greater hazard, then I would, strongly consider putting more of those signs on our property. And, at least if they're temporary yard signs, like you said, just to call out the concern for smoking. But Shannon's right. We already have it on our signs, so not much will change once this is passed for our staff. But we'll continue to monitor the fire situation and adjust as needed.
And it's not, this is a hard one to say, but I always call people out, but that seems to be getting more dangerous and more dangerous. When you say, hey man, put the cigarette out, you can't do that here. It's even when you try to do it friendly, it's not, I don't know. Yeah. A lot of people have some freedom. And so if you see it, say something if you want. But I think it's important for us to spread the word to our friends and relatives, and hopefully everybody can say something. And I don't know, just mention Terry Barton. She went to prison for starting the Hammond fire, and it was a burning envelope. So I think that might have more teeth than saying you're going to get a $200 fine. Say, hey, you will go to prison. So I don't know. That's delicate, really delicate. Any other questions? Ready to move on? It's a new business. Wanted to talk about, and I think we touched on this in the last meeting, our subcommittees, what we have and what we don't have, and what we want to be doing with them. I think during this discussion, we also need to, at the same time, have a discussion about our staff job descriptions, duties, and if we need to make recommendations to council, how we're going to use our staff. So if you guys will bear with me, I think we need to just blend this all together and have a really open discussion. First off, let's talk about our subcommittees. We have one for, and let me know if I'm missing one. We have one for Trails Inventory Subcommittee, right?
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
It's us.
Yeah, so Trails Inventory Subcommittee.
Didn't we have a
Uh,
Trail Inventory Subcommittee?
We have, do you want me to tell you the most recent ones that we
Yeah,
had?
we have a
Okay.
ton.
Okay, so there was the SOP committee, which was temporary, and that was Nancy, Tim, and Cheryl. So that's done, right? Then we had the Trails Subcommittee, and that was me and TJ and Cheryl and Seth.
Did
Then
that do
there's
maintenance and inventory?
all of it. Yep. And then open space. And then we had separated the open space into open space management and then open space acquisitions. So on open space management was Shannon, Tim, TJ, me, Jeff, Skylar. And then open space acquisitions was Shannon, Tim, Judy, Robin, Jeff. That's what I had.
Acquisitions and management. I know at one
Yeah.
time we had a trail inventory because I was not, or maybe that was the management was trying to do a trail inventory too.
Yeah, that was like one of the first things we did. Yep.
Right. So to go right in, I think we need to figure out what we need as subcommittees. We don't need the subcommittee for the SOPs anymore, right? And then I think some of these things, and you guys, and this is my opinion, so I want to hear everybody's opinion because we need to move forward with this. I think some of these things shouldn't be a subcommittee. They should be a staff thing. And I think some people that have been on here for a long time will attest that we have spent decades trying to get staff positions, literally decades, trying to get some staff. And now we have a bunch of staff. And I'd like to see us figure out, maybe write some job descriptions or use the job descriptions that are in the post to put some of this subcommittee work on staff. What do you guys think? Anybody?
Can I talk about trails real quick?
Sure.
Just on that end? So, yeah, like what we had tried to do was really kind of come up with like a process for how the trails management is going to go. And we were working on that last summer. Is that last summer already? But sitting down with like Seth, like we really went through like, here's the process for how, you know, he will be working on a lot of the trails management, like either, you know, identification of what needs to happen, you know, all the way through the set hiring of contractors or setting up of work time for city staff. So I feel like that, like, I think that it's important for us to still have like a role with setting like the direction, you know, like, hey, you know, and then let's have these trails conversations, you know, during this subcommittee. And then, you know, it maybe, I don't know, it can shorten things a little bit when we get to the main report out. Okay, bottom line, I think that we should still have a trails subcommittee. And I think that a lot of what we had been doing is being done by Seth. So
what would you
that's what I
like to
gotta
see
say.
the trail subcommittee do? And I guess what I'm curious about, because it seems like every other group in town, every other para or whatnot, they have, and I'm not saying we need to, I'm curious if we should, even historic preservation, all the other groups have staff come to them and say, hey, this is what's happened. What should we do? How would you like to advise council to tell us what to do? However, you know, that twist there. So I'm curious, I guess mine, to put it bluntly, is if we have all this staff, if we've hired them, we didn't even know we had the staff. They just got hired and given to us. We didn't have any role in that hiring process. I guess what I'm curious about is if we have the staff, I would like to think that we can trust them not micromanage them with subcommittees, and then have them come to us and bring the trails as they see fit. But I don't know, does anybody else?
I gotta say, I am a little confused with the language I guess you're using. You're saying like that these staff were just like given to us, like meaning OSAC, like, or do you mean like
They
I'm
have
just,
titles, they have titles in their jobs that says OSAC manager. Nancy, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, but staff serves at the behest of council, not at our behest.
Right.
And so they already have job descriptions that were set by council. That's the first thing. The second thing is I can see a happy medium, and maybe that's the purpose of this meeting in some ways, is that the trail subcommittee, and Andrea, I'm happy to join you because I'm no longer on any committees, is in my mind, kind of big picture potential priorities setting for the year. But at the same time, Seth is on the ground looking at trails and can see where we need work, where something's dangerous, where something's encroaching on, flora or, whatever. And so it's a kind of a combination. I can imagine working with Seth to go, okay, here are our trail priorities for 2023. It's a both and kind of thing. And I would still expect Skylar to bring us stuff that rises to the top that he thinks affects us. We need to know about fees in lieu. We need to know about property that that if he becomes aware of, that we might be interested in. But at the same time, we know that most often property that we might be interested in can come to any one of us. So I hate to see us divide too critically of, this is not my job or this is my job. I hope we can be really collaborative in figuring out some of this. And it is so wonderful to have Skylar and Seth doing so many of the things that we couldn't cope with as an all volunteer committee. So I hope we can just continue to collaborate on all of that. It really is their day-to-day bailiwick, not, not as much ours, although, I think we have a really clear mission about looking out for open space, the management of open space, now the management for trails, that kind of thing. But as a community, our point of view is community. Their point of view is very, much on the ground. And I think we're there now, unlike we used to be there to give them community, feedback and input. But they are the boots on the ground, and they have to balance all the other demands of their job, para, what council wants them to be, all that other stuff. So I don't know. I'd really like to hear from Skylar and Seth too, about how they see it.
How many people do you have, Skylar, that have open space in their title?
I'm trying to think. So myself and Seth, and I believe one other person who is a park maintenance worker. So just, yeah, thank you, Nancy. Sorry, I'm trying to squeeze in dinner here at the same time. So a couple of thoughts. Seth and I are city staff, and we report to Denise, city manager, not city council. So there's a point of clarification. The city manager is the only city staff member who reports to city council. The rest of us are under her purview. And then, yeah, I think, like I've been saying all along, a lot of this is new. We're trying to, hit our stride here, but this is an important discussion and clarification, and we'll get better at this over time. But our job as city staff is we are responsible for public spaces in parks, trails, and open space. That's our direct supervision. So we are also boots on the ground and trying to be visionary. Open Space Advisory Committee and Parks and Rec Advisory Board are advisory committees. You know, we want to work hand in hand and understand your advice, your vision, and how we can carry out that vision. And Parib is a perfect example here because last fall they said Soda Springs Phase 2, that's our vision. That's what we want you to move forward. The pool feasibility study, that's our vision. That's what we want staff to move forward. And then staff worked with Denise and City Council to identify funding for those projects. So I have spent, you know, my time this year prioritizing those projects and moving them forward. So how that relates to OSAC, it's the same kind of thing. You guys set the vision, you know, together. We do that in our, you know, fall retreat, and we set our vision for the next year. And then the next year, me and my staff carry out those visions, you know, with your advice. So I'm not sure if that helps clarify some roles and responsibilities, but ultimately, you know, we're the ones that are responsible for the maintenance and upkeep of the open space and trail system. And, you know, we execute contracts, we pay the invoices, you know, all of those things. Those are logistics that the operational side of things.
So guys, I'm not trying to say that we are their boss. I'm not trying to say that one of our subcommittees is not important, but I want to have a conversation about, is some of this redundant when we have staff members doing the exact same thing, whether we told them to or not. I understand that they don't work for us, but they don't work for a subcommittee either. So, and I also understand that we're in it as a team. I'm not trying to say I want them to do this and we do that. I'm trying to figure out if there's a more efficient way to do things. I'm not trying to step on people's toes with their subcommittees. I'm just trying to figure out if there's a more efficient way to do this. And I think when Seth is writing a maintenance log on his own, having a subcommittee for maintenance log is redundant. And that's kind of what I'm saying. If you guys like the redundancy, so be it. I was just trying to get the conversation going. I'm not trying to take any steam away from anybody or anything. We've tried to get staff. Yeah, go ahead, TJ.
Yeah, I get what you're saying here, but also I think one of the things we've discussed in the past too is that a lot of what the subcommittees do is basically help streamline these meetings as well, so we don't have to rehash a bunch of this stuff during the meeting, so that we can get out of here in less than 2 hours. You know, this meeting is already running pretty long for where we are in the agenda. So, you know, on the other hand, these subcommittee meetings can, if we have them on a regular basis, can help streamline that. So I get what you're saying, that, yeah, we're not anybody's bosses here or anything on the committee, but yeah, if used properly, we can really, because I mean, I understand the once every 3 months idea got shot down last meeting. I wasn't here for that. But if we're having monthly meetings and we're spending this much time in the meetings, rehashing a bunch of stuff, it's a waste of a lot of people's time as well. So, and the last thing I want to say is Jim has had his hand up in the attendees room for a little while.
Oh, hey, Jim, we didn't see you.
Hey, no problem. Yeah, I was going to chime in with pretty much, I think, what Nancy and Skylar already covered. I mean, I think there's, you know, the collaborative effort there. And I think, to your point, I think some things could be streamlined or whatever, but that's up to you guys to figure out, right? But I think, you know, you have a role as well as staff, and your role, your job description is defined, and that's enacting, you know, the open space plan and everything. And you know, yeah, that's going to be a collaborative effort. You guys covered it all already, so you're good. Thank you.
Yeah, TJ, thanks for, I see what you, I mean, I totally understand what you're saying. I think a good point, and I'm wondering if staff can help streamline these meetings as well, which they already have. But you know, having a open space, a small parcel open space management is a huge a small parcel open space management. We had a subcommittee for that, and that is 100% something that staff could do, and I think is doing. We all looked at that and said, I don't even know what to do with this. Even Dylan said, I don't know what to do with this. So that's one of the main things that made me think about that. So go ahead, Andrea.
I would like to suggest doing just like a trails subcommittee and then like an open space subcommittee. And I think open space is going to be both acquisition, but also management. So like the management, you know, did sort of include that, you know, small parcels, you know, thing, and has been kind of shifted to staff. And they've been working on that. So not specifically with that particular, you know, agenda item, but, you know, still we need to, you know, make sure that we're keeping up on what our open space management plans are. And,
Right.
you know, so some kind of management.
So
you know,
maybe like maybe the land management thing, and I'm thinking out loud. So maybe the land management subcommittee could be tasked with meeting only when there's a trigger, like when something comes up with code or by ordinance that we have to have this done before Palmer Land Trust gets angry. Because I don't think we had all these subcommittees and then they never met, and then we'd have a question like, what is going on with this? And then everybody'd be like, I don't know. And it just kind of got,
Yeah.
and we didn't need to have reports from all these committees every single meeting either. So what I'm hearing is a trails subcommittee, a land
Yeah.
acquisition. I always think land acquisition subcommittee, I think, is top priority in my opinion. And an open space management subcommittee that maybe is only triggered if it's needed by staff says, hey, we need a.
Well, I think it would be good to yearly have a review of our open space
Yeah.
management plans, and maybe like that's a great use of maybe a subcommittee meeting time, is to sit down with staff and just say,
Right.
okay, are we meeting this? What are some changes we'd like to see in the future? Blah, 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 something like
Right.
that. Just like a yearly thing.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And then if something comes up that we miss, because I don't know how many times Dylan would come, oh, hey, we're 2 years behind on a land management thing that we were supposed to write, then that could trigger the subcommittee to meet again. Nancy?
Oh, I was just gonna say, you know, we've got a perfect example in front of us. I mean, Seth just did a whole walkthrough with Palmer Land Trust. I would
Right.
expect we'd get a report from them and a report, and back to what Skylar was saying, you know, we're gonna be more now responsible for big picture thinking. What are our priorities going to be for the coming year with all the input, with what we know about open space management plan from Palmer Land Trust, you know, where we neglected our duties, what needs to be done yet next, and then what Skylar or Seth says about trails that need to work on. We're sort of the machination of all those things, and then what do we want to come up, what do we think the priorities should be?
Right. And Nancy, to your point, and I'm terrible with words, so I mean, everybody seems like whoa, but what I'm saying is staff did that, or Seth did that walkthrough. Before Seth and Skylar, we would have had 6 meetings and a subcommittee to figure out who's going to go on that walk.
Right.
Them. So I think it's happening. I just wanted to kind of talk about it and say, hey, we're moving some stuff on.
It's awesome. It's beyond my wildest dreams.
Great, but I think we need to all acknowledge it and maybe say that we can back off some of these subcommittees for these until we need them. And I'd like to see who wants to be on the subcommittees, because I think last time we were all on all the subcommittees except for like one. So I'm being dramatic, I know.
I mean, the other thing is that just occurred to me is, you know, these are new positions. We never,
Right.
we worked for years and it's in the plan, you know, we really wanted a Parks and Rec director. We never believed it could happen. Frankly, I didn't pay any attention to the job description because I just didn't think it would ever happen. You know, so they're here now, which is wonderful, but we kind of on the reverse side, if council ever decides or if, that they can't afford these positions, if the city manager ever decides that we can't afford these positions at a city, we need to be able to say why these positions are so important to us.
Right.
And just keep that in the back of your mind, because I don't know, if Colorado Springs passes the recreational marijuana thing and all that, and our taxes go down dramatically. I hate to talk about this in front of Seth and Skylar, but you know, this is a new position. We need to think about how valuable it is to us and be able to express that when it comes to budget.
And Nancy, that's one of the very main reasons I'm bringing this up, because someday we are not going to have the money we have. And if we can make these positions solid and viable, because I think there's a lot of positions I think we can all agree on that are going to go away someday. And if we make this a priority, and I think the citizens have already voted that open space and parks are a huge priority, but we can't say when it's budget time, like, oh, we do all this with subcommittee. I think there's a way to make it more efficient, better. And
Well, the other thing I think we should keep in mind is that I can imagine council coming to us and saying, we need you to put more into the budget from our budget for their salary.
which is, I've said that since the very beginning. We're probably going to need to pay, and I personally would be okay with that if it got us some guy that is always going to be there when Mile High Youth Corps is looking for a mentor, and all of us are scrambling to try and get up there and take my daughter up there and manage someone where I don't know how to manage a trail crew. So we have that now. So
Yeah.
we don't have to beg people to write grants anymore. These are huge things our staff should maybe be doing, but I don't know if we need to tell council, hey, council, could you ask them to write a grant? Because clearly it was offensive when everybody thought I was thinking we could tell them what to do. Yeah, Judith.
I just wanted to make one comment, and that is just to, and I know we all know this, but, and it's not that we serve different masters. We all are in this together. But for example, city council serves at the behest of the voting citizens, where we don't serve the city administration. We serve the citizens, and the advisory boards and committees are also kind of in the same bailiwick, in that you must live here in order to serve. You must, we take, it is citizen led and citizen driven. And council takes the opinion of boards, commissions, and committees very seriously, very seriously. So if OSAC comes to council and says, this is what, is important to us, we hold that in high regard. We are very privileged, not only to be almost fully staffed, but to have Skylar and Seth on board. And I think it is relevant to discuss the fact that not only the marijuana ballot issue does have enough signatures, it will be on the ballot this fall. But that aside, what I think is more important is that the OSAC committee serves the community and is an indispensable advisory board. So what I'd like to see is just now that we have Skylar and Seth on board, to just figure out now how we work together. Who does what is basically the question here, right? Who does what, and we don't want to do double duty. So my question to you is, as your liaison, if you choose to have some subcommittees, do you want me to attend those committee meetings? Because I want to be there for you and attend those subcommittee meetings, and happy to do so as part of my liaison position, but want to make sure that that is what the committee wants. If that's what you need,
Judith,
great.
how about we answer that question once we figure out the subcommittees?
That'd be great. I just want to throw that into the mix, that I want to know what you need from me and how you want that to look.
Right.
Thanks.
Thank you. So Jeff, Robin, Tim, Judy, what do you guys think about the subcommittee stuff? In that order. Just kidding.
I've not, I mean, I signed up, but I don't, and maybe there was a meeting when I think I missed them because I was out at a certain point. But if there were meetings, there must not have been more than a couple, because I know I volunteered for one of those subcommittee meetings, and I never went. I would like to go, but sometimes things come up. But
right, of course.
I think there might have been maybe one meeting.
Just
I
one.
don't know, but I don't know that we ever met. And if we did, I missed it.
Is there anything you'd like to see as a subcommittee, or do you have thoughts on this subcommittee conversation?
I think like the trails one seems like it makes sense for sure. Like, and I don't know exactly what the brainstorming was behind the one of those mentioned was like the open space acquisition, I think, or something thereabouts, which seemed to me to be a lot about what I thought the whole OSAC was about. So not knowing more details, it just off the top of my head sounded redundant on that one. Like a subcommittee for the committee where I thought we were on, but I'm newish, so.
The purpose in the past of the land acquisition committee was to try and narrow down properties that might be important and if something came up, to bring it to council or bring it to the whole committee. It wasn't it was pretty informal. It was like, hey, this land came up, let's do kind of the dirty work at the negotiation and then bring it to the committee and say, hey, we figured this out. So but that could be changing. It sounds like that will be changing.
Yeah, not that that's not important or anything, but yeah, I know you said like it's great for everybody to always be like on the lookout for, whatever a good idea or something. And maybe this made sense maybe 30 years ago or something when things were cheaper. But I don't know how much you can go out and pursue that per se, other than just maybe stumbling on something.
So am I hearing you say that like a trails and an open space management would be the two subcommittees you want to see? Or I guess what I'm trying to do is get some subcommittees established, fill them, and then move on.
Yeah, I mean, the trails interest me a lot. So yeah, I mean, I think it would be good to like personally to know more about them and, help others to know more about them so they're utilized better. Plus, I think a well-traveled trail is less likely to be polluted and whatnot. I know my wife gets tired of hauling out homeless camps and throwing them out. So I think, more people on trails, keeps them more friendly for families and whatnot too. But so I have an interest in that.
Hey, Tim.
Yeah. Whether or not we're going to have a subcommittee on some of these things kind of depends on what roles Seth and Skylar are taking on. And it's starting to sound more and more like Seth is going to be responsible for a lot of the maintenance stuff that we were thinking about and talking about a lot. And, maybe a good deal of getting Remfree and Mile High Youth Corps and people like that on board to do some of the work. We're going to have to do a lot less thinking about that now. And certainly Skylar is doing a large picture, a lot of large picture thinking on this. So my point is that we might not need these subcommittees as much as we thought we were going to when Nancy first suggested them. We didn't have a Seth and Tyler out there doing a lot of this for us. So I don't know how much subcommittee work there really is that's not just our committee work. I don't know if we're gaining anything through these things.
Who is first? Judy?
Judy,
So actually, this is falling right into the discussion about the meeting that Andrea and I had. And I think this is a good example of when it works, which is this, I don't know how long this list has, that you've got, everybody's got, has been floating around, was it 1990 or something? But I think this is a perfect example of when it works, because she and I got together, this thing's been sitting and sitting and sitting, nobody's done anything with it, that from what I understand. And we kicked it around for a couple hours, and everything that's involved in this to move this entire list to some kind of unscrambled organization so this committee could hop on it and get going. And that we did between the two of us on our own time. And we've come up with a plan, and we actually have come up with a side plan on top of the plan to do that. And I think that's the perfect example of when a subcommittee is important. And maybe that is the answer, is that when we have something that everybody just looks at and says, this looks like a headache, you put it on a subcommittee to say, look, who wants to wrestle with this? A couple people to see what you can do with it. Just sit down with just this topic, not an agenda for a whole night's worth of topics, but just this topic. And that's what maybe a subcommittee should be doing, instead of saying, well, we have these standing committees and they should do something. You say, well, we need a standing committee for this problem. And this problem is this list has been gone nowhere. And again, just,
Hey, I got a quick question, Judy. When you say that list has gone nowhere, are you saying nobody's bought the land that wasn't for sale that's on that list? I don't
No,
understand.
but the list, but if you look at the list, there's properties that have been acquired. Well, they should be off the list. There's properties that may not be even relevant to look at. Maybe they should go to the bottom of the list. And then you start saying, well, we started saying, well, how do you decide? Because we couldn't figure out the maps either, and because they were so hard to read in terms of what we were looking at. How do you decide which ones the committee should say, we're going to go look at? We're going to see what the deal is this. And someone said, well, you know, it's getting past the time where you can go meet Joe at the bar. No, he just has some property. And it seems to me that's what's happened. But I don't know that we've acted on that knowledge. And so here we have this great list, and we haven't even shuffled it around and gotten rid of the properties that have already been acquired in terms of acquisition. And that's the kind of background work that this committee, if we tried to do it all together with us, it might be helpful. I don't know that it would. And so Andrea and I tried to tackle it and have come up with some ideas. And now it's back on the agenda for the whole committee to work with. And maybe that's the way to go, to say, well, do we need standing committees, standing subcommittees, or do we need to say we need a committee to tackle this? And it's just a suggestion to look at it the opposite way than well, we have set committees and you're in charge of this and you're in charge of, well, do those things fit what the problems are? And are they the most agile?
But the thing here, I mean, I know you have a new subcommittee, which is 2 people, that is going to do a presentation tonight. You said you guys put the information together to put it back on the agenda, which is great. I mean, you guys, that was incredible. However, we have to do things a certain way. And I hear what you're saying, that we need a land acquisition subcommittee. And I don't think anybody disagrees with that.
I think Shannon, like, so are we just trying to set a couple of subcommittees now and then put people on them?
That's what
Is
I
that
would
the
like to
ultimate
see,
goal?
but
Okay.
I mean, I'd like to hear what you guys want to have as a subcommittee. That's, I mean, what do we need?
Well, what we had been doing, I mean, like,
Trails, open space, and land acquisition is what I keep hearing people say.
Yeah.
yeah, so trails and then an open space. So really you could say two, and then within the two, you know,
An acquisition.
it within open space, you then say, yeah, this involves this acquisition, but there's also the management side of it. So if we want to split that into a third subcommittee, like open space acquisition versus open space management, I mean, I think management wouldn't be a very frequent kind of thing.
Right. Like I said, with the trigger stuff. Maybe.
Yeah, but it could be, you know, but so that could be, so because that could maybe just be a 1 year kind of like, you know, update kind of thing, then, you know, that could just be one thing within the open space, and they mostly maybe focus on acquisitions otherwise.
What do you think about like the open space management committee? If it's a yearly meeting, why don't we dedicate one meeting of all of us once a year to open space management, unless there's some kind of trigger?
I think that's a great idea, actually.
Nancy?
Yeah, exactly that. I was just gonna say, can we agree that these committees are all ad hoc committees?
Mhm.
Right.
They're committees that meet if there's a need, and otherwise they don't. So another example, there's a big deal coming up when Seth will have Mile High Youth Corps and Rimfy working on these projects that we're paying a lot of money for. So let's imagine that Seth comes to us, you know, 2 weeks into the project and says, hey, they didn't complete it in 2 weeks. We really could complete it and do a bang up job if we had 1 more week of funding. Could we get another $10,000 to finish the project? So then we have an ad hoc trail committee that's been looking at this for a long time, and they bring it back to the whole committee and say, you know what, we're recommending that we fork out another $10,000 to finish the project, or whatever. Seth just finished this walkthrough with Palmer Land Trust. If something comes up in their report, we need to know about it, and the trail management committee, you know, needs to respond to that. I can imagine, so I can imagine the 2 committees you're talking about, Shannon. I think that's really appropriate, and that they meet and discuss this stuff if something comes up, if we're asked to give an opinion or fork out more money or whatever it is. And the other thing I can imagine those committees doing is meeting once a year or twice a year, but they report to us at our annual meeting about what they see as the priorities for the coming year. Because we've got to be the big picture thinkers. We've got to be the ones who are looking at the whole open space and trails that are our responsibility, and that the taxpayers have said our responsibility. So that's big picture. We want to be able to report to our community that we've bought, you know, 40 acres of new open space, and that we've built or maintained X number of miles of trails. Those kinds of things, those quantitative things will make a big difference in the end. So yeah, I don't want to waste people's times either, you know. So I would suggest that the 2 committees you suggested.
Trails, and it could be, let's call it just trails. So then it could be management, it can be whatever the trails subcommittee wants to talk about. And then the land, I think land acquisition should be a standing committee. Personally, because it's the most important part of our committee. It's what the tax was voted for. That was the very first thing. I mean, land acquisition is our major and main goal. So
the other one I can imagine coming up with trails is outside pressure to build a new trail. And we've faced that before, and it's been difficult. So I can imagine the trails committee, you know, saying this and this is our priority. our priority is maintenance, what we have, or we do want to build a new connector here, or whatever it is. But the people on that committee need to decide if, I would say they put forward a priority list at the end of the year or before our annual retreat, and we need to listen to that.
But the bottom line, 100% the bottom line is no subcommittee makes any decisions at all without a Monday formal meeting in public
Absolutely. Yeah.
with a vote of all the committee members.
Yeah.
So, and the idea is, and Andrea's excellent at this, like putting it into a concise, like beautiful document or whatever, making it easier for everybody so we don't hash this out for 6 hours on a Monday. So
I think we need to either move on or vote on something and get going.
So am I hearing everybody say trails subcommittee and a land acquisition subcommittee? Is everybody cool with that? Anybody have questions or comments?
I think you need to just generalize it, make it open space committee versus land acquisition.
I
We
agree.
are the open space advisory committee. So we're going to have a subcommittee called the open space committee.
I think that works best for us to separate them that way. Obviously we can evaluate that in the future.
And we could, if you want to get more specific, Shannon, we could talk about, so open space includes open space management and acquisition, and trails includes trail management, trail construction.
Well, didn't we just say like an open space management would be a yearly meeting unless it was triggered to do something else?
Yeah, both of them potentially.
So who wants to be on a trails subcommittee?
Well, just out of curiosity, we have now a trails subcommittee and an open space subcommittee. What else is there?
That's what I'm asking. I don't
It
think
could
there needs
be like
So why are
a
we
budget subcommittee.
Splitting
There could
those
be,
into, I don't know.
Sorry, I didn't hear what Andrea said.
That seems like exactly what we need to talk about as a group.
that's what I'm trying to get going.
I
we have
mean,
all these
the last
we don't
last-
need to meet
this
Monday
just-
every time.
the trails subcommittee, that meeting that we have, which was that we've had two, but the one that we did in November of 2022, we talked through this is what our ongoing yearly maintenance, or this is our process for trail maintenance. This is how it's going to work with Seth, and we said, he's going to keep track of stuff throughout the year, and then he will, present stuff in October, like highlighting 10 to 15 maintenance projects that need to get done. And that way, we can start looking at how they can be completed like in November, you know what I mean? So we came up with this, this is kind of how it's going to work with some kind of advisory trails subcommittee. And then that would then be presented to the full committee, during the full meeting. But the thing is, there is work to be done, it's like we have a lot of time that we need to spend looking at the properties that we are looking at for acquisition. And I guess we'll talk about that just at the end of this meeting here. But so there is work to be done. That's just my point. I think those two would be okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to chime in thinking that thematically about this, you have your open space committee, which is basically the land, the environment on it, and that goes well with acquisitions because we're looking at habitat, we're looking at view shed and that sort of thing with the open space one. And thematically, the trails one is basically the land access, so it's a completely separate compartmentalized thing. So I think that I'm fine with just having these two things right now as the subcommittees.
This is
Okay,
Rob. I'm sorry, since I can't raise my hand, it's not easy. I'm good with two, and then if anything else comes up, we can create another one as needed.
Okay, to move this along, I'd move that we establish two subcommittees. I don't know whether to say ad hoc or formal. Subcommittees. Open space, an open space subcommittee to include open space management and acquisition, and a trails subcommittee to include trails maintenance.
I would like to maybe add to just trail maintenance for the trails thing. Like, I know everybody's very sensitive about, some secret trail getting snuck in or something, but like, I think that it is an important thing that we do need to actually talk about. And part of it is we need to come up with a process for how we are going to, people will nominate new trails that they want to get made, that kind of thing. And the same thing with open space land acquisition, we need to develop a process. So, and that's something that we were supposed to do when the post plan was published, so those are things that do need to get talked about. So what I just want to say with trails, I think we should add instead of just trails maintenance, just say trails management. And I think when we develop a trail management plan that we are working towards, that would include some of those things.
I think you're right, Andrew.
Yeah.
I think that the trail management would cover all the bases.
Yeah. Yeah. And you could say something like trails management and trails.
Couldn't we just keep it at trails management, and then open space
Sure.
management should cover acquisitions too, right?
Sure.
So that gives us a little more leeway in both of those things, trails management, open space management.
Right.
What do you think, Skylar?
I'm good with that. I think there's going to be plenty of work throughout the year for those committees to do. And a lot of it is the lead up to our annual meeting where we plan the next year. So that's where really you can set that vision within those committees to present to the larger committee. And then we can always do project-based committees as needed.
Mhm.
Cool. So we had a motion for trails and trails management subcommittee and an open space management subcommittee. Is that correct? Anybody want to second that?
Can somebody read it? Maybe.
Nancy Wilson made a motion to establish a trails management subcommittee and an open space management subcommittee.
That's good.
I second.
All those in favor?
I'm raising my hand.
Passes unanimously. How about this, guys? Will everybody think about what they want to be on, and at the next meeting we'll divvy it up? Sound good? And then you guys are going to kill me on this one, but we don't have to have a big discussion. This might segue into our every other month meeting for open space, and then those Mondays in between, because subcommittees are hard. Everybody's always like, when can you meet? How about I can do it on a Thursday? Let's do a doodle poll. Where are we going to do it? Is the room available? If we do, just think about this. We can figure out the next meeting. Every other month have our open space meeting, and in between we have the open space management committee meeting, and then the other in between would be the trails management. You guys have any thoughts on that? Like,
Great
super
idea.
streamlined, efficient. All right. So let's move on. We'll talk about that. We'll get that dialed in for the next meeting and vote. So is everybody ready to move on?
Hey,
Sure.
Shannon.
Yeah.
Sorry to go backwards. Did we vote on the ordinance?
Oh, we did not, did we? You need to vote on that, huh?
I think so, yeah. Judith, would you agree we need a vote on the ordinance in order for it to go to council tomorrow night?
Smoking ordinance. You're talking.
The smoking ordinance?
Could we
Yeah,
get
I think we need a vote.
could we get a motion approving the ordinance as amended on the smoking in parks, open space and trails?
I make the motion to,
You can just say so moved.
so moved. Thank
A
you.
second on that? Nancy, second. All those in favor say aye.
I
Aye.
I always say that, but I don't think I have to. Sorry.
Can I just say, I would only amend that language to say that you approve it on first reading.
We don't
because it's still-
do second readings here.
I'm just saying that in order to approve it, it won't be approved until second reading and after public comment, which may change the ordinance. So what you're saying is the ordinance as written today on first reading. I'm just saying that I would just insert that on first reading, because a lot of times on second reading, the language changes. So I'm just saying, yeah. So if you're supporting it, you're saying you're supporting it through second reading and approval. So just housekeeping only.
Really? We're not just approving the draft as we see it?
It
Well,
won't
see,
come back.
that's what I would say, is that you're approving it on first reading.
Right,
That is the draft.
yeah.
But it's not going to come back to us to approve it again on second reading.
Is it?
But you as citizens have the right to come on second reading to discuss it, because it's open for public comment. Like, for example, the street performers, we approved it on first reading, and on second reading, it died. It didn't pass because there was so much public comment and so much dissent, it died on the
Hey,
vine. So
Judith,
I just want to make sure that,
are we worried about this?
oh, I'm not worried about it passing. This is just, to me, it's just, but I'm just saying as a committee that
It just,
anything can happen in council. I've seen crazy things happen, and you go, I'm gonna approve this as written today, but that language could change.
it
And
just
we
needs
could
to
add a, so anyway, you guys will decide, whatever you want to do. I'm just saying that if you're gonna say that as a group you approve it, I would say that with a caveat that you approve it, the first reading draft.
Well, I think we voted. So do we want to redo the vote or
No.
how?
You can do just a friendly amendment. You don't have to redo it.
It just needs to be in our notes that the one we voted for was the first reading. And then, because later on, if you go back, well, open space said it passed. Well, which reading was it that they voted on? It just needs to be in the notes.
And it will be discussed tomorrow. Council can discuss it, and I can pass on whatever you tell me you have approved tonight. If you have approved it on all the way through, if you approved it on first reading draft, you tell me, and I will tell council tomorrow.
You know what? I 100% trust council to do the right thing on this.
Okay.
If anybody wants to amend this or discuss it more, they totally can. It's up to you guys.
All right. So I'm tasked with three things now. That OSAC approves of this ordinance, and that we want to just discuss fines and enforcement. Is that clear? Are those my marching orders?
No, I don't think you need to discuss enforcement, Judith. It kind of goes without saying. However, I mean, how do you enforce homeless camps? How do you?
I think those are two really valid. I think those are very valid discussion points.
Yeah, enforcement is important.
So if I hear consensus, that I will say OSAC approves this ordinance and wants to just discuss how fines and enforcement will be handled.
Yeah, we just like to know what the
Okay.
consequences.
We don't want to discuss it. We just want to hear the
Right.
answer.
Right, true, but
Okay.
I need to just know that, because Nancy mentioned fines and enforcement, and I'm making notes
Right.
about what you want me to talk about. If that's not true, I mean, I don't have to talk about it, but
Judith, all we want to hear is the answer.
okay. Well, some council member will bring it up. If I don't, someone is going to bring up fines and enforcement, because that's a really valid question. So it's going to come up anyway. So, but if council hears that OSAC is interested in making sure that council knows that you support it, and you're just wanting to get some more information on fines and enforcement, I can put it out that way. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, back to old business. Tim, I think you just need, I think we're just looking for an update on the Black Canyon easement, but I don't know that there is an update. Is there anything to even talk about there?
Not as far as the easement goes, no.
Yeah, we just don't.
A couple of things. We were going to put together some signs to say end of Manitou Springs property.
Yeah, we're
private
talking about that
property
in
damage.
5.
Pardon me?
That's on the agenda,
Oh,
the
okay.
sign thing.
Okay, good. And, one thing I wanted to ask Skylar, and Skylar, I realize we got a lot of moving parts here. I don't know if you're paying attention to it. As far as this see, click, fix stuff, a lot of that stuff takes months for anything to happen, for any action to be taken. And I think we need to expedite this stuff on homeless camps in some other way. I mean, we can't wait a month or 2 months to roust out a homeless camp when we have the fire issues that we have right now. I think
Don't those, they go right directly to the police, like those kinds of concerns?
they do, and then the police click on them and they still take months. So
What can we do about that? I'm kind of lost.
yeah, that's what I'm asking. What can we do about that?
Well, am I correct in understanding then the police, what they do is there's a group that goes around and picks up the camps on police call them? Is that how it works?
That's how it works, and it's sometimes taking months
Mhm.
before anything happens with those camps. And that's a dangerous situation right now. And I'm just trying to get see if Skylar has become our interface to the police on that. And I'm just asking Skylar if there's some way that we can expedite these things.
Yeah, so Tim, a lot of that is just beyond our control. We're kind of, at the mercy of police when they have the staffing and availability. They're looking after, a whole bunch of law enforcement stuff within the city, and they've had their own health issues. So,
Okay, well, I guess that's maybe a bigger question for city council or something like that. To go.
I
to
mean,
city council.
we did schedule a cleanup day though. I sent
No, I
that
know
out to
that.
everyone. So I know it took, quite a bit longer than when we originally wanted it, but the police, they have found it's best to partner with a group like Keep Colorado Springs Beautiful that does this on a regular basis. So, like you said, a lot of moving parts. This was the best we could do. And I think once we get it done, then we just probably need to make it a quarterly thing where it's, a little more consistent. So that's kind of where I'm going with it next, is just kind of keep it on everyone's radar a little more regularly, because it seems like it's an annual thing right now with that group and police. So if there's a way we can kind of do it more frequently, we'll probably have better success with that. But at this point, I'm just thrilled that we have something scheduled and we'll be able to get up there and get some things taken care of.
Yeah, I think I might take that up with my city council person, that we really need to get the police to take this move a little more quickly on this stuff, because all it takes is one fire. And hell, last year we had somebody go up there and set one on purpose. So we need to keep on this a little bit more. Different conversation. Thanks.
Well, and Tim, you bring up a good point. Maybe all of us, as citizens, not open space members, might want to send an email to our council person in our respective districts, because it always helps for everybody to hear it. Thanks for bringing that up, Tim.
Sure.
Anybody have any questions about Black Canyon? We'll go ahead and move on to number 2, trail and trail maintenance. Seth, this is all you. Red Mountain Agreement and the Mile High Youth Corps Agreement update.
Yeah, so fortunately from last meeting, there are no updates. We're still on track with Renfee with the switchback agreement, they're gonna do it around, I think, September, sometime in the fall. And then Mile High Youth Corps is still tentatively to be scheduled on when they can do their work.
Schedule it. They don't have full crews or what?
Yeah, they're severely understaffed this year, so it's taking a lot more planning and efforts for them to kind of get to all of us. It's most likely going to be sometime at the end of the year, or possibly even next year.
So they're not working with Renfee while Renfee is working on the project.
Correct. Renfee, we decided, I think that was a few meetings ago, that we could best utilize both of them separately on different projects.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for Seth? Nope. Number 3.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, real quick, Shannon. So I mentioned to this group a couple months ago that we were applying for a state grant to get some fire mitigation done by the Youth Corps. So we did not receive that grant. We were just notified last week. So bummer for us, but we have actually made some pretty good contacts with a local firefighting group that will be conducting fire mitigation at Deer Valley. And if that goes well, we'll kind of work with them moving into our trail system. So we were really hoping to get that grant and get the Youth Corps doing some fire mitigation over the next couple of years. We did not get that, but we didn't, sit still. We kind of continue to make contact with local groups, and we're excited that we do have a plan moving forward for Deer Valley, especially for fire mitigation, and they're actually starting next week on that. So Shannon, you can look for them.
Who is that group?
Tava,
Are they like a private nonprofit? What?
they're with the county. They're like an arm of the county. I don't know what Tava stands for, but they fight wildfires regionally. And when they're not out fighting wildfires, they're looking for something to do.
Doing
And
trail work.
our police chief made a really good contact and connected me with them, and we were able to show them Deer Valley on that day with you, actually last week. And they're excited about the project, and they'll stick to the plan that we have laid out and get after Deer Valley.
Awesome. Tim?
Yeah, Skylar, is there any way that we, the citizens, can take a look at that plan? Because to some people, fire mitigation means cutting down every damn tree in the place. And I don't think the people in Crystal Park, or Crystal Hills rather, would really be too amenable to that.
Yeah, so
I'm not being smart here. I mean, literally.
No,
if a lot of the people that wanted fire mitigation had their way, I would have to cut down every tree on my property. So
yeah.
So it's kind of important that you get the pulse of the people in the community, I think.
Sure. So I prepared a plan. I have got the same concern. I don't want every tree cut down. We love trees, and our city arborist actually worked with me on this fire mitigation plan at Deer Valley, and it was presented last week at the Crystal Hills neighborhood meeting. So we have been working with quite a few residents and city
Crystal
staff.
Hills neighborhood meeting?
Yeah, the one that was at the fire mitigation meeting. Sorry, not the Crystal Hills one, the fire mitigation meeting.
Gonna say, I've never heard of such a thing.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
that wasn't a public meeting, right?
Right.
It was the community
22nd.
was invited. Yeah. But anyways, so the plan is not to cut down every tree. The goal is to create islands for all of our trees, and then have a 20 to 30 foot buffer in between each tree. So it's a defensible space for all of our for the fire department in case anything comes up. But the goal is to create those pockets of trees so that there's some separation. So it's not cutting down every tree, but there will be some trees that'll come down due to that. It's a
Just
huge
a
concern.
point of information, Skylar, that whole area, mitigation was done in that area probably over 10 years ago now by Mile High Youth Corps, under a prescription by the fire department where they, I mean, there's pretty much nothing but Gamble Oak on the upper part, right?
Right.
A lot of brush and everything, but anyway, it was mitigated once before, but it's a good lesson in that it doesn't last forever.
Yeah,
Things
I
keep
mean,
going.
we're at that point again where it's prescribed by the fire department. It's a huge concern and the number one fire hazard right now in the community. So that's why we're trying to be as proactive as we can to get after it. And this is our plan. So we'll start next week and keep at it.
Great.
Awesome. Thanks, man. You guys want to move to number 3, 284 Crystal Park Road? I think we've already discussed that, unless there's anything you might have forgotten or want to, do you want to just get an attaboy again?
Yeah, as I said before, that trail closure and reroute went successful, and that's it.
Cool. Thanks, man. Let's go to land map update, Skylar.
Yeah, I was hoping to have a better update for you. We are working with our GIS coordinator, but she caught COVID recently, so has been out of the office for a while. The goal is to have a map to share with you guys based on what we discussed last time. And I believe I'll have that probably by next week. So I might just email that out when I get it so you can take a look at it. But I'll just kind of share a little bit what I requested. We wanted an update of the open space and trails map to include some layers that you can add or take away. So some of the layers would be trails, open space parcels, public property, city property, adjacent property owners, such as the big ones like Hog and Colorado Springs, Cave of the Winds, Adventures Out West. Anyway, so that's kind of a rough outline of what we were looking for. If I understood this discussion last time, is just try and have a map that we can add or take away layers so it's a little more clear and specific to what you're looking for.
Right. Skylar, real quick, and I thought of this kind of on the fly. Is there a way to put in there like some the things that used to be open space that got rezoned? I don't even know who would have that. The things that used to be open space that never got zoned and had turned back to city-owned property. Could they get a little blurb on that in there?
Yeah, actually, I was going to provide that update at the end, but that's on its own track right now.
Okay.
Seth and I are working with Dylan on
Awesome.
that, and we should have a better update by the next meeting.
Okay.
So we're trying to take that inventory to figure out what was zoned and what wasn't zoned and what should have been zoned. So we'll have a good progress update to report next time for that. So I don't know if that necessarily needs to be put on this map. Once it is zoned open space, then it'll be that layer of open space.
Awesome. Was that it on that, I guess?
Yeah, sorry. That's my update on the maps. I would
Okay.
take it to the next meeting.
So trail closure signs update. I think that's you too.
Yeah, actually Seth has that one.
Seth.
So I think the two proposed spots we had talked about were at the Rogue Trail that's at the top of the cemetery that goes to the property. The last name's escaping my
Faisal.
mind. Yeah, that's the one. So kind of still in the progress of that. There is a split rail fence to kind of delineate traffic right there. Just kind of waiting on our in-house sign guy to make those signs for us, and just kind of decide on a final spot to put it over in Black Canyon, because it's kind of tricky with the multiple access points over there.
Wait a minute, what are we gonna put up over in Black Canyon?
Trail closures.
What signs are you talking about?
Trail closure signs, I think, right, Skylar?
Yeah, no trespassing signs.
Yeah, no
Yep.
trespassing signs is what I think we were looking at. Something that marked the end of Manitou Springs property. And in particular, along the old wagon trail up there, just to say no trespassing beyond this point end of Manitou Springs property or something along those lines. And yeah, I don't know if we say no trespassing at that point or if other people are responsible for putting up those signs, but something that delineates the end of our property that way.
Yeah, we'll make sure it says no trespassing on there. I believe that was the language that we were using.
Any questions, you guys, about that?
Yeah, the only thought I have about that, Skylar, is do we put up no trespassing from this point on, or it's not we're not saying no trespassing, we're saying this is the end of our property, and then somebody else has the responsibility to put up no trespassing signs, I think.
Maybe private, like the Forest Service does at a private property behind this sign.
Yeah, something like that. And then they can scatter no trespassing signs all over the place if they want.
It seems about as friendly as it gets.
Yeah.
Anybody? Nope. Good to go on that one? Yep. All right. Number 6, potential open space areas, Andrea and Judy.
Hey, Andrea, hit it.
All right. So like Judy said earlier, we just got together and we're kind of putting our heads together about how to organize the parcels of land that we would hope to purchase as open space for this community. And so we need feedback from you guys on how we want to do that ultimately, like long term, like how do we want to keep track of these things. So if you look at the one pager or couple pager that I typed up, that has stuff that has a list of ideal properties from 1997 and then also those listed in 2016. So there are 2 different styles. So one is like listing like specific properties. Now those properties might be one more parcel or many parcels, but they're listed there, and we certainly could just update something like that. And then the one from 2016 took more like regional area type approach, where they just said like, hey, if you look at this region, pretty much any property should be considered in that region. So it's hard to see the maps. My guess is they're somewhere where they're stored in their full sizes, but right now they're just like PDFs that are parts of the open space plans that are on Manitou's website. So it's kind of just a start in some direction. So we should figure out like maybe we want a mesh of both of these, that's kind of what I heard from some of our past meeting discussions too. So and then ultimately I think work towards making a useful map that it sounds like we are well on our way for. So that is all I have to say about it. Does anybody have questions for me?
Would it be fair to say that this is a really good foundation or start for the land acquisition subcommittee or the open space management subcommittee?
Yes, I think so.
So I think I just want to add to this, because if we are kicking around this idea of prioritizing. I mean, we're here in the middle of the summer and nobody's looking at properties, which seemed like what a waste. So what we were talking about is starting right away.
We can't hear you. Judy, we can't hear you.
Just muted.
Well,
Can hear you now.
So we missed pretty much everything you said.
hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
So if we said to everybody on this committee, you have this list, and other than the properties that have already been acquired, obviously, you would want to look at these properties, and if you knew anything about them, because we really struggled trying to identify them on the maps. But if you knew anything about them, I mean, you can see there's very small parcels and there's huge parcels. And the question is, who knows anything about any of these? And if you do, can you identify them in terms of location and possibly the maps we have? And if that is so, can we start looking at them? In other words, taking, the apps you can get to hike these properties and start seeing what
Judy,
they're.
can I stop you right there?
Sure.
We can't just go walk on private property.
Yeah, no, I know that. That's why I said if you knew the property, just like you got permission to walk that property, we could start working on that.
Right, and I guess I'm curious. Like these properties aren't, I mean, if it's for sale, I don't understand where you're going with it, because I really, and I'm not trying to be, I just don't get it. Like if a property that we might want, that might be a priority, if it's not for sale, what are you suggesting? That we go say, hey, can I walk on your property? Because someday you might sell it.
Well,
see what I'm saying?
I guess that's a
That's
possibility. I guess what we were hoping is that some people would say, I know this property, I know this person. That was that was the approach that's been suggested. Or this property actually is for sale. How do we find that out? I guess you find a person who knows properties and say, well, this is a pretty good property. This connects. Actually, we thought of you, Tim, obviously, sorry. But finding those things out about properties that look like they might have potential. And then if they are for sale, or somebody does know somebody owns them, can we go look at them? And the last thing we thought about too was saying, if we get a chance, because we were trying to talk about how to get people involved and kind of vested up in this process, would be to avoid the problem of the sunshine laws. Could we say, okay, let's say 4 of us decide we want to go look at X property if we get a chance, and they meet those criteria that we talk about, then could we make them public meetings? So if anybody else wanted to track along, they could. And that was the other part of it. So we would try to get some more people involved in this process who are not members of this committee.
Well, Judy, there's a couple things. Any land acquisition, it has to be delicate, because we're offering a way different price than what market is. And a lot of times when we do these things, we have executive sessions about them. We don't make it a public meeting because we need to talk about our finances and what we're going to offer. If it's a public meeting to talk about buying a piece of property at open space prices, someone else can come in and offer $1,000 more. So that's super, super delicate. And
Okay,
I
so
think it would be a good idea to kind of, I mean, you guys, I love what you're doing is awesome and it's super ambitious, but I think it would really behoove us to kind of put that work on hold and make a subcommittee where we can talk about these kind of things, because you don't just say, hey, we want to buy that piece of property and then have a public meeting about it. Almost every land acquisition we do is done during executive session, because
I wasn't talking about, maybe I'm not being careful enough, but what I was saying is if you have to worry about the sunshine laws, like when the three of us went out, okay, well, when the 3 of us went out, did you publish that?
I did.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying.
But we weren't talking about land acquisition. We were talking about open space management.
When we went to see that property, that strip of property by the bridge.
We were talking about our open space small parcel management. When me, you, and TJ did that, That
Yeah.
was a small parcel management. We weren't talking about acquisition.
Okay,
Yeah, because we also were checking out that parcel just by Emerald Fields as well, that again, was open space and
Was
is
open.
not now, and yeah, that was a whole,
but the one from Manitou Ave up to the park,
When we were out there talking about open space management,
mhm,
it dawned on me that there might be an acquisition possibility. And that's when we were not going to look at that property. It just, while we were out there, like, oh, wow, look at this.
okay.
So it's just delicate. And I don't know, Jim could probably chime in. Corey looks like he wants to say something. So, but do you see what I'm saying there? Like this is not, yes, we have, and if we want to go walk a committee, but we don't want to get the whole public involved when we're getting ready to offer money.
So when you go to look, the only thing you can do is just two of you to avoid the sunshine law.
Well, I mean, we don't want to come out in a public meeting saying we're trying to avoid the sunshine law.
Okay,
Hey, can I jump in real
Yeah,
quick?
of course.
I think we're just kind of diving into the weeds right now. I think that the point is we do want to actually have a list of properties that we are hopeful for now and in the forever future, but have those listed and identified so that, you know, maybe staff could help us with that kind of thing, but also every year, maybe we just go through and be like, are any of these for sale? You know,
Agreed. Yeah.
or
for
maybe
sure.
not every year, but you know, so, and then, but then discussion about whether or not we really do want to buy something that is for sale, that's kind of a different ball of wax, but, but so there's different things that can happen with it. But I think like right now, if we, you know, if you guys have any opinions on like how we want to do it, do we want to like try and combined effort to like identify where we want to, you know, purchase properties, or do we want to say like these specific sets of properties, or do we just mesh them together and kind of start with that list that we have there and maybe just try and update it?
I would really like to see the subcommittee formed formally and hash this out and tell us what they think is best.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then they can report to the big group and say, hey, we think we're going to do a list like X, Y, or Z. Yeah.
Right. Nancy?
Well, two things. One, I think the point you made earlier, Shannon, about if it's not for sale, what do we do? The first clue often we have is that a property is for sale. And I'm thinking about a piece of property over, I don't know how to describe it. It's off the Intamin down the social trail or the neighborhood trail that goes on down onto High Street, that we've made a formal, it's at the bottom of the stairs and it takes off from the bottom of the stairs, or the closure of the stairs that we did on Intamin and goes down there.
Oh, it's up by Uinta?
Yeah,
No, not by Uinta, down by Shoshone.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So there was a piece of property for sale in that area, and we went to look at it a long time ago when it really wasn't for sale. It was just open space. The last time I was in there, there was a for sale sign up. So that would be an example of us keeping our eye out when we see a for sale sign on something. We should probably, and it's been for, if it's still for sale, it's been for sale now for well over a year. The other thing I would say, and Jim Yount's on the phone, is that we often in the past sent letters to private landowners saying, if there's any chance you'd be interested in donating your land for open space, here are the benefits to you. You know, we'll survey it and give you a tax deduction or a tax
We
write-off.
just did that
whatever.
a couple of years ago, a flurry up at Plainview before it got sold to a developer.
Right. So there are a couple of ways that subcommittee, you can approach private landowners, especially if that committee decides this is a piece of property that's really important to us, whether it's view shed or trail connection or whatever it isn't completely out of the scope to try to figure out if that piece of property could be for sale or could be donated. That's all.
Jim's got his hand raised. How do we call on him?
Thanks. Yeah, you definitely want to be proactive. I mean, in a couple of ways too, right? I mean, you should have, which is the whole point of what you guys are doing. You should have a list of parcels that are kind of ones you have your eyes on. And I understand that that's where you're trying to get to. You know, but yeah, you should have a list. And again, it's gonna, like Nancy said, it's gonna depend on, you know, there's gonna be some parcels that are for view sheds, some parcels are filling a gap between open space so that there's not development there either from a view shed point of view or connectivity from a trail corridor point of view, right? You're gonna have all these things. And that's why a lot of these open space parcels, these little tiny parcels were purchased is with that larger picture of the jigsaw puzzle in mind. So yeah, you know, that overall picture needs to be developed, a list of parcels of interest. And then, yeah, just work your way through them. You have to be proactive. If you're, I mean, sometimes it just happens that, you know, yeah, you see the for sale sign, but usually, you know, you don't want that to happen. You want to be in line for the sale or encouraging the sale before the owner even realizes they want to sell, right? Or maybe they've been toying around with the idea. But so once you understand what that list is like, you can start contacting people and reaching out. And you know, it's, you know, just set a schedule for, you're going to contact a few a month or something like that, or a few a quarter, right? And then just work your way through the list. And then when you get to the bottom of the list, you go back to the top and you start over again, right? Because it may have been a couple of years since you've contacted that parcel. So you just keep doing it. And it's again, it's the long game, right? But you're on the right track in terms of trying to develop the maps to understand better and look through these lists. These lists were, you know, they're kind of, they're not terribly specific, I think, for a reason, right? I mean, they're kind of suggesting areas rather than specific parcels for a number of reasons, but one of which is that you know what Shannon alluded to, that you don't want to tip your hand, but they're also, you know, community has offered input, and this list is what came out of that input. So sometimes that input is generalized, or you have to take specific comments and lump them together where it makes sense, and it becomes a general category. So take those with a grain of salt. They're there to help to guide you, just like the maps are. But ultimately, it's up to you guys to determine, you know, what parcels in those specific areas you're going to go after. And the existing open space should be, and the existing trail corridors and the planned view sheds or planned trail corridors and all of that stuff that are in your plans should be what's guiding you. And there's, you know, there's always room for creativity as you do this. Sometimes, you know, brilliant ideas or things pop up, and it makes sense to go with them. You know, if the committee's on board and it's in keeping with the theme of the public input, you know, that the public input and the overall plan are guidelines to guide you on this path forward to do your job, right? So, but you're on the right path. You just gotta, you know, and these committees make sense. And the only comment I was going to say is there's overlap between open space and trails in terms of that land acquisition. So you guys, obviously you're all in the same committee, overall committee, so there'll be communication, but you got to keep that in mind as well.
You know, I have one question, and this is a little bit detailed, but there's one property on here on the Washington Avenue, and being up here on Washington Avenue, it's called the escarpment area, and on the side it says steep slopes. But you know, I wonder if we should ask the city or look into that, because there were 3 houses that were over there, if I'm in the right area, and they were torn down through FEMA, and I didn't think that property could be built on. So is that part of that area? And I'm wondering if the city knows more on that spot.
I may know the piece of property that you're talking about. It just recently went back on the market.
I can't tell if some of the property that's for sale is next to the slide area that it slid, which is why FEMA had to buy the houses. But I thought if FEMA had to buy a house off of a property, that property could not be built on. So why would you try to sell it?
Is it above Washington or below Washington?
Well, I think that both sides have been tried. The one above is what's for sale right now, but the part below is what I know for sure slid. But the part above isn't good either. I can't see that. Obviously, it's never sold and it's gone on the market, both sides. Who at the city, does Skylar know who would I go in and talk to Dylan about that? Would he know?
What do you want to know? Like if it would be an open space property or?
Well, I think it should be open space because I thought technically no one could build on that property. And I don't know where the boundaries are from this, section over to here, but.
I guess my big question would be, is that something, if it's a landslide area, would we even want that in our inventory because of liability?
Well, if it's in Manitou, wouldn't it be our liability?
Not open spaces.
Well, right, not, yeah, but I'm wondering, isn't it just in Manitou? I mean, yeah, who owns that and what is going on with that?
Yeah,
Right.
I think I know who owns that, and I think I know what the price is they're asking.
Is that Ken Wright's property?
Pardon
I
me?
just say this would be great conversation for you guys to have in the subcommittee meeting.
I was
Yeah,
about ready to
like-
chime in with that too. This
Yeah.
is dragging on
Yeah,
and I really need some dinner.
Corey,
Also,
Corey has his hand up for a long time now.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah, I had two questions, and they might be staff questions. And as you all know, or many of you know, I'm on the Mobility and Parking Board, so we're trying to figure this out too. It's about the sunshine laws, and my understanding is that if 3 people of the committee meet to discuss committee business, that's subject to the sunshine laws, regardless of an acquisition or not. And I just wanted to confirm and make sure I understood what was said about that topic.
Yes, 3 people meeting together anytime about anything that are on a committee are subject to the sunshine law, and it has to be a posted meeting.
Okay, and so you're saying that is what happened with that meeting that was just mentioned.
With me and
yes.
yes,
Yes,
but
No.
that was not a land
Okay.
acquisition meeting.
Judy was not on OSAC at that
Judy
time.
was not on OSAC. Yeah.
So that was only 2 members.
Okay, I see.
those meetings should be definitely published and they should be sent, if we could always have all of those sent to everybody, like notification of
But-
those meetings. Yeah.
Let me back that up. When me and TJ and Judy were out, Judy was not on OSAC.
Mhm.
When we did our land acquisition meeting at Trails End, it was posted. And I emailed everybody about it too. Well, I guess I emailed everybody on the acquisition subcommittee and it was posted publicly. Are we worried that I was trying to get over on somebody, Corey?
I have a question. Do you have to post it in the same place that city council meetings have to be posted? So at City Hall, okay. Yeah, it's
And
just, I
online.
thought so. Yeah,
We
Thank
give
you.
that to staff and they take care of it for us.
It's
So-
posted as a special meeting, yes.
So yeah, guys, thanks for all your work on that. And just everybody can do their part with the land acquisition. I look at all of the realtor sites probably every other day, just for the heck of it, to see if anything pops up. I have a million friends that are realtors who I contact all the time and say, hey, just remember us. And Nancy actually got a phone call from a realtor that she's friends with. we got a phone call from another realtor who was just curious if we wanted an open space spot up at Higginbotham. So there are things that, but I'm not going to report to you guys that, hey, I looked through all the MLSs when I was bored when Stella was taking a nap. Those things are happening all the time with all of us. We just got to figure out how to look at them. It's not all as intuitive as you might think, to just look through MLSs and see what's for sale and then know what's for sale and where it's at and if it's of interest. That's a really gray kind of, it's a casual thing. There's no formal process of just messing around on the internet when you're bored and seeing what's out there. I don't schedule it. I'm not going to post it. But like Jim said, there's all these things that have to happen, writing letters, making contacts. So yeah, we need to put this on. It should be a subcommittee thing. Seems like, and I think Andrea and I were talking the other day, and everybody's got a different style and what fits them and what they like. So let's get this subcommittee together and they can make the style how they want to go forward on this with their maps, black and white. This is what we want. Everybody's got a different style. I'm super casual. Everybody's done it differently for the last 30 years. We're a new committee. I think the new subcommittee can set the tone for what style they want to take on prioritizing and finding properties. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
sounds
I would just like to say that what Jim suggested sounds like a marketing campaign, and there's software for managing that kind of stuff that might make sense for OSAC. Just when to send out a letter, when to follow up and do that sort of thing.
Back in the day, it was Michelle Anthony. She would write handwritten letters and send them to everybody on Red Mountain. And
Yeah, we're not going to do that.
no, we're not doing that. We don't have it. It's not going to happen. So
You can set that up so it's just automatic.
Are we
Right.
now saying we have two committees and we're gonna fill, people are gonna volunteer, but we're not gonna do that tonight? So this will wait. I'm lost as to what the next step is.
what the next step is, and you guys can do whatever you want to do, but I think it would behoove us to have an actual land acquisition, the open space management committee that is going to cover land acquisitions. If that could be a committee of people with a published meeting and public comment to move forward with it instead of trying to avoid the sunshine law by doing it two at a time. I think we've established that we want to do that with subcommittees. I think now we do it formally. By next meeting, we establish who's on what subcommittee and we figure out the schedule of when they're going to meet. Is everybody all right with that?
Mhm.
And then that can take the pressure off of the overachievers.
Okay. So we're gonna have a meeting next month and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna actually have this.
We are going to hash that out in our next monthly meeting. There'll probably be a lot of other things to talk about too. However, that I think will be, everybody think about what committees they want to be on. If you want to be on all of them, I think it's important.
Okay.
Do Andrea or Judy have anything else on their agenda item?
Andrea?
Nope. All right, future agendas. I think we just discussed a couple things. Does anybody else have anything they want to see on a future agenda?
I would still like to see the surveys from Ollie Watts at some point.
Yeah. Skylar, is that something on your radar?
No, what, can you fill me in on that one?
We paid for surveys on 284 Crystal Park Road. We paid the same guy, and a survey on the Black Canyon easement. I feel like we might have seen them,
We have.
but kind of like
I got a copy of them.
yeah, I think they were in our
I've got a
packet.
PDF copy.
I've looked through all of them. They were never published in a packet, but
Tim, could we
if you
get
could
them?
forward them to us, yeah.
Yeah, maybe-
Can I send them out legitimately to everybody, or should I just send it to Skylar?
Send it to Skylar, and then he can send it out to everybody.
Okay.
I'd like to hear a report on what's going on with Serpentine.
Yeah, we've been wanting to hear that for a while.
It's done. It's done. I believe the last thing they're working on is a title issue. Wait for the title to be fully transferred over. But as far as the acquisition, it's all been completed.
Could we have a formal update on that next meeting? Because I know last time it was on the meeting agenda, Denise pulled it off at the last minute, right?
Yeah, because they were trying to finalize something and that has since been taken care of.
Well, and we still don't know if the city's expecting any funding from us, right? And what that amount is.
Yeah, I'd like to see a formal discussion about that next meeting.
Okay, yep, I've got all that information.
Great.
Okay. Good call, Nancy. Tim?
Yeah, we might want to think at some point about whether we ever want to build a trail up to Black Canyon, open space into that area. And we actually end up owning a good portion of that, the beginning of the wagon trail up there, all the way up just a little bit past where the turnaround is. So there's a historic site of interest up there. There's also the concern that if we put a trail up there, we're creating an attractive nuisance for all the other people with private property up there that don't want people continuing on that trail. So things to think about.
Do you think an agenda item, maybe Black Canyon, the future of Black Canyon question mark would be appropriate
Sure.
for that?
That's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Everybody good? Hey, Seth, do you have any parting thoughts? All right, I'm just kidding you, man. Don't want to put you on the spot. I guess we can adjourn. Everybody have a great 4th of July. Stay out of trouble,
Why?
and we'll see you guys later.
See you at the pool.
See you at the pool.
Do we have to have a motion to adjourn? No,
Yeah, can we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
Robin seconds, or Nancy.
Raise your hand if you want to adjourn.
I'm raising my hand.
Okay, motion passes unanimously.
Hi, Nancy. Nice to see you.
See you
Good
guys.
night, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.